Hey everyone, good morning. This is Jacqueline Tecarante with JMT Media. I hope all is well. It's been an interesting 48 hours, everything from the stimulus bill to what's happening in our community. As many of you know, we put together this community corner to really talk about what's happening here in our corner, in our neighborhood of Staten Island, for small businesses, nonprofits. We've had a variety of guests on the segments, ranging from financial planners to bankers to representatives from Small Business Development Center. And we're hoping to have some folks from Small Business Services on. But today, we have a very, very dear, close friend and just an amazing female entrepreneur. I want to invite, but before we even talk about who she is, because she's just fabulous, as we're talking about connecting small businesses, especially on the North Shore, with restaurants, event planners, et cetera, one of the things that I'm hearing and seeing in the Latin community is, resources for the Latin community, especially like in the Port Richmond area, but also Staten Island as a whole is truly what the Visit Staten Island borough calls is the unexpected borough. Everything from the Sri Lankan community to the Latin community to the Muslim community. And there's just a lot of businesses that are being affected. And so I just wanted to make sure that as we're talking about relief efforts for small businesses, we're also talking about the other businesses that nobody really is talking about. And maybe they will. There's just a lot that's going on in the world right now. And so I just wanted to put this out there. I'm calling this the Compassion Community Corner because I really want to talk about the different segments, the different immigrant populations that are here on Staten Island, how they can get support, what kind of support they need, and more importantly, how we can all stay connected. Because as with most nonprofits, they have limited resources. And so we want to just constantly update people and give them as much information as we can. Yesterday, the Chamber of Commerce, along with Small Business Development Center and Small Business Solutions, which is a subdivision of Small Business Services, had an amazing webinar to talk about the different services, whether it's loans, grants. I know everybody is really waiting on the stimulus package to see what that all entails. So today we are joined by Yesenia Mata. She is the amazing executive director for La Colmena Resource Center here on Staten Island. Her predecessor was Gonzalo Mercado, also an amazing force. So when she was announced that she was the new executive director, I was like, yes, female empowerment. I'm loving it. Gonzalo did an amazing job. And he worked with Yesenia for many years. So it was very appropriate for her to be the executive director. She has been a community activist. She's in the military. She's an entrepreneur. But more importantly, she's what I call a prima. Like a prima is like a term of endearment, like a cousin. And so, we always, whenever we hear things, we always make sure that the other businesses here. So joining us this morning, I'm super happy that Yesenia Mata is able to join us. Thank you so, so much, Yesenia.
Thank you for having me. I am so excited to be on. I have seen everything that you have been doing, that your staff has been doing, and most importantly, right now, the small business owner community is currently being affected so much. And this is very important to me. My father is currently a small business owner, and I am currently seeing what he is going through.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so for the folks that are following JMT Media on Facebook Live, can you let everybody know just kind of your history? Because you came out like, what is it? Like they use the term bull in a china shop, but you're not a bull. You're like, to me, you're like a quiet lion. But you've been doing this for lots and lots of years, community activism, supporting small businesses. Can you walk folks through where you're from and all that good stuff?
Well, originally, I lived in Chicago. I was born and raised in Chicago, on the south side of Chicago. And growing up in Chicago, I was raised in Little Village.
Mhm.
Little Village is called La Villita. La Villita is a Mexican immigrant community. And well, as soon as you walk into Little Village, the first thing you see is a big arch, brick pink arch, and it says "Bienvenidos a la Villita," meaning welcome to Little Village. And that is a symbol in Mexican communities, inviting people to come into like the village.
Yeah.
So growing up there, I started seeing how the Mexican immigrant community was being affected, how there were many ICE raids happening, how there was not many resources for the immigrant community. And just seeing what my father was going through really impacted me at a very young age. And slowly in high school, that's when I started getting involved. And it was more, when people ask me, why did you get involved? Was it something you liked? And I said, no, it was a necessity. I
Mhm.
got involved because I started seeing how my family was being treated. I started seeing how my friends were treated, but most importantly, how my community was treated. So I slowly started getting involved in the political process. I understood the power of the Latino vote at a very young age. And I started getting involved. Eventually, I got hired by the Bernie Sanders campaign to do what I do in a national level. I went to various states, and uh, borough that really stood out to me, right, was Staten Island.
Yeah.
And when I got here to New York City, I for a moment there, I thought Staten Island was from New Jersey because I didn't hear that much about Staten Island. And when I came to Staten Island, I came to La Colmena, and I saw a rich, beautiful community, Mexican immigrant community, and how they were just trying to get by every day, but as a
Yep.
community and without any help. And I realized that that was a forgotten borough. And after the Bernie campaign, I decided to stay here in Staten Island to support La Colmena, to do what I did in all across the United States in La Colmena here on Staten Island. And through all of my activism, I met very uh, many deported veterans.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that that was happening until I met one of my friends, and he told me, Yesenia, well, I served in the military, and I have been deported for the past 10 years, and this was when I was in Tijuana, Mexico, because
Oh,
my
wow.
activists led me over there to Tijuana, Mexico. And through that, my brother served in the military in the army, and I eventually ended up joining the army as a military police. I'm currently a specialist, and just when I talk to these deported veterans, I ask them, "Will you serve again?" And they tell me, "Yesenia, if I had the opportunity to serve again, I would do it."
Yeah.
And currently, that is, I'm currently in the military. That is my military job as a military police officer. But as a civilian, I am the executive director of La Colmena.
That's fantastic. So, can you talk to everybody about what La Colmena does? Because the way how I was actually introduced to La Colmena was several years back, before I opened. Well, gosh, now thinking about it, I've had my company now for 5 years. But before I opened up JMT Media, I was actually the former director of marketing and PR and external affairs at Snug Harbor. And Gonzalo had approached Larry Anderson, the director of public programming, with this amazing performance piece about immigrants that were essentially the transition of them being in like shipping containers. And so it was interesting because they brought an actual shipping container to Snug Harbor. They did the live performance. And that's when I really fell in love with La Comena, because I thought to myself, oh my gosh, there's so many resources that they're not even having access to. Let me connect with Gonzalo. And that's how I met him. So, can you let everybody know what La Comena does and who they help and all that good stuff?
Well, La Colmena is a day labor and immigration rights advocacy organization. And through La Colmena, we have different committees. We call them comités. We serve the day labor community, which the day labor is your everyday immigrant mother, immigrant father who is just trying to get by. Majority of these day laborers become victims of wage theft, or
Yeah.
even they get threatened. We hear constantly from them that their employer either left them somewhere abandoned with no right, either did not pay them, and when they asked for them to get paid, they would be responded with, "Well, if you keep insisting, I will call ICE on you."
Mm,
And that is currently what we see constantly. And as La Colmena, what we do is we dispatch them, send them to their employer, but at the same time, we let the employer know that these people have rights and that these
yeah.
people are protected. If anything does happen, that we will proceed legally. We also have the other comité, which is the Ñañis. The Ñañis in Guelaguetza. They are an indigenous group in the island. A lot of people think that majority of Mexicans or Latin American people on the island that they speak Spanish, and you'll be surprised that a lot of them still speak their indigenous language, Mixteco. And I can't really communicate at times because obviously I speak Spanish, but they try to teach me. And this indigenous group is so rich here on the island. What they do every year is the Carnaval Mixteco, which they do it at Snug Harbor, as
Yeah.
a matter of fact. And I know you've been there. So you're always there with your family, always supporting us. And they show their cultural dances and show the people who they are, and it's been growing each year because
Yeah.
of their beautiful ornaments that they have out there, their beautiful indigenous wardrobe, and it's a beautiful thing to see. And also we have the women's group, and the women's group is immigrant mothers who just want a space for them to grow. The immigrant mother is usually putting everybody in front of her, making sure that her family is being well taken care of. Like my mom, right? My I call her mommy. My mommy always, always made sure that I was fed, that everything was going well, that I went to school, and while she was working. And these are immigrant mothers that what we try to do is teach them English, try to let them know what resources are out there for them, build that empowerment within them. And at the same time, they create their own little business and cleaning services. So for anybody out there that needs cleaning services, let us know.
That's right.
And I guess in a sense, it's like they are their own entrepreneurs. And we also have the butterfly effect, which is a young group of organizers, which is very dear to me because that is how I started getting involved. I
Yeah.
was a young organizer, and I just, at that moment when I was young, I just wanted guidance and I wanted to get involved and I wanted to help my community. And that is what we have at La Colmena, the butterfly
That's
effect.
great.
It varies from U.S. citizens to DACA recipients, which DACA recipients that right now have been going through a lot. They're basically in limbo. And as a whole, together, what we become is La Colmena. And La Colmena, it means it's like that little hub for the community. And we also have the unicorns, which is an undocu LGBTQ community. And that is usually what's left out of the conversations when it comes at times with the LGBTQ community, that they forget the undocumented LGBTQ individual. And they are not only trying to fight for who they are, but they're trying to fight to stay in this country. They're seeking asylum because in their own country, they were either being persecuted or they were getting threats. And here they are bringing that to light that, yes, I'm an LGBTQ, but I'm also undocumented. And through it all, through La Colmena, that is who we are. And we try to protect one another and let each other know that we are here for each other, that your fight is my fight.
Yeah. So speaking of being here for each other, we as we were checking microphones and audio before we started, you had mentioned that a lot of the resources that are out there that have been put out there because of the coronavirus, from loans to grants, what are some of the challenges that the mixed Latin community are having? Because I didn't even think about it until you mentioned it. So can you talk to folks about that? Because we have folks from SBS that are following us, and different advisory groups. And so, can you talk to us a little bit about what are some of the challenges that folks are facing with the current distribution of information?
Well, on the island, right, we have about 40% that are immigrant-owned businesses, and specifically on Port Richmond, where La Colmena is located. And this is just in Port Richmond, La Colmena. Uh, we have been going to immigrant-owned businesses. A majority are Mexican. And when I started doing my outreaching, because organizing in Port Richmond, I know that the business owner there is el don, la doña, la señora y el señor, just our everyday immigrant parent and mother. And I stood back a bit, and I realized when I was growing up, my father, when he opened up his business, he really didn't know much, right? In the sense of how to use the internet. And he wasn't very trustful of who would be on the other side of the phone. So majority of it, even though there were resources, he really didn't understand in the sense of what was out there and how he could get connected. So what we did as La Colmena, as soon as we started seeing this crisis hit, we started going to the small immigrant-owned businesses, and I, when I go get my pan dulce, my bread, I was like, hey, do you know that currently the mayor is providing a grant for small business owners? And they responded with telling me, well, I don't know about this. What is it? And I told them that this grant is for small business owners that
Mhm.
have less than 5 employees, and that have seen a decrease of 25% in their business, and this will help pay at least 40% of their payroll to their employees. And the next thing, they were like, how do I apply? They were surprised that there was this help out
Yeah.
there. And I told them, well, either you could call 311 or you could go online. And what some people need to understand, that again, this is your everyday immigrant mother and father, that all they are trying to do is just to get by, right? Currently, what we are seeing is ICE on the island. And this is really affecting the immigrant community, because one of their biggest fears is, obviously, I don't want to get detained. I
Call
don't want.
anybody, yeah.
So they're worried about that. They're worried about making their ends meet. And when we tell them that these services are out there, one of the things is that when I tell them, well, again, right, apply online or call 311, they tell me, well, I don't know how to use the internet. Can
Mm.
you help me? And when I tell them, well, can you call 311? They tell me, well, Yesenia, I don't trust that person. I don't know who it is. Again, there's a lot of mistrust right now in the immigrant community because of what is happening in with ICE raids, and they're being targeted. So what we do as La Colmena is we sit down with them and we try to let them know that this is where you navigate. Can you come and make an appointment, and we'll help you apply for this? And we're constantly communicating with them, and letting them know of all the services that are out there, because a lot of the services that are online, some of them are translated in Spanish, but then we need to walk through it with them and let
Process
them
with the
the process. And even at that, when I tell them, well, if you need to let go of somebody, they can apply for unemployment. And even at that, like yesterday, I was just giving an example earlier, that yesterday I spent about an hour and a half helping someone apply for unemployment. And one, because they didn't know how to use the internet, and majority of it is in English. So
yeah,
so
yeah,
so this is the other issue, that majority of it is in English. So what I had to do was translate it in Spanish and help them understand what they were applying for and what they were signing on. So this is what is happening, that when these services are being put out there, they need to understand who they are reaching out to. And
yeah,
not everybody else is internet savvy, or understand, or knows how to speak and read the English language. And this, especially when it comes to the immigrant community, and I don't just talk about the Mexican
yeah.
community, I
We're
say
talking
this
about everybody.
everybody. And this is where we are trying to do outreach into other communities, and let them know that here we are, and tell me if you need help, and let me connect you with somebody that can help you.
You know what? That's really great advice. And so, I reach out to small business services almost daily to get information. So I'll definitely be raising that information up to them. So, what we're going to do is we're going to actually put you on what we call the dock in the green room, because it looks and sounds like we have Michelle Molina from El Centro, who's also here on Staten Island, which is part of Project Hospitality. So we're going to introduce her, but I want to keep you on, Yesenia, because we may have a few different questions that come through our public. But thank you so much. For those of you that do not know, Yesenia, if you can let everybody know how they can find you, if they have any questions or they want to be able to help support you, let us know so we can get the word out. And we'll definitely put it up in the link down below once the segment is up online on Vimeo. So, Jessica, can we get our fabulous Michelle Molina from El Centro? All right, we'll give it 2.2 seconds, y'all. So anyhow, Yesenia, what is the website that folks can reach out to y'all if they have any questions about La Colmena?
Well, currently La Colmena is working remotely. We are still on site to ensure that ICE is not conducting any ICE raids and providing services to people such as meals. And where they can go is to La Colmena page on Facebook. And also they could contact me directly. I'm usually as well on Facebook and ensuring that I stay communicated with people. So I let people know that you could contact me directly or you could contact La Colmena on Facebook.
Perfect. So we just heard word. Unfortunately, Michelle is unable to join us. Some technical difficulties, but we'll make sure that we hear from her sometime this week. Yesenia, thank you so much for letting us know that 40% of the Staten Island businesses from the restaurant businesses are actually owned by a vast majority of the immigrant population, including the Latin, Sri Lankan, Nigerian population. And so we're going to try to see how much information that we can provide to La Colmena and to these other sub immigrant populations, because you're absolutely right. These are great services, especially if you qualify, right? You want to make sure that you keep people's payroll, you keep that economic stimulus happening within your community, but we want to make sure that you can, read and translate the information. So we'll be reaching out to small business services. So again, thank you so much for joining us on an early Wednesday morning. And I'm sure that you're going to continue doing God's work and helping your community. So thank you again, Yesenia. And next time when you go and get some pan de dulce, don't forget about me because I love pan de dulce.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for having me and for your shows. Again, I have been seeing everything you all have been doing and just this information that you're putting out there to small business owners. I have to go on your webpage to get information so I can let my community know, because you do such a great job ensuring that everybody stays communicated and informed.
Thank you. One of the biggest things for us is we are a small business. And
Mhm.
so we understand the intricacies of how long it takes to apply, things that just even the application for the retention grant.
Mhm.
It's like a stack of papers that you have to send off. And so if you don't have the accessibility to a scanner, a printer, I mean, it can be a bit challenging. So we're trying to make this as easy as possible to help other small businesses thrive. Because again, when everybody thrives, we thrive. So we got to get it together. We got to work it out. So anyhow,
Absolutely.
you have
Thank
a
you.
wonderful day. Tell your husband hello. And for those of you that are watching, stay tuned because we have several segments that are coming up, including a former Wall Street financial planner that will be talking to us about the new economic stimulus plan. We're hoping to have him on this Friday. Um, Happy, healthy, and just be kind to one another, y'all. All right. I'll see y'all later. Bye.